constantly on the lookout for rare examples of the 1975 Lincoln penny, and how the tiniest minting mistakes can turn a common coin into something worth millions. Let's start by setting the stage. The year was 1975, a time when the Lincoln penny had already been a fixture of American life for decades. Originally introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the penny was the first U.S. person. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse of the coin, that is, the front shows Lincoln's bust in profile, facing right. The reverse side of the coin, during this period, featured the Lincoln Memorial, a design created by Frank Gasparo in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln. Remained in use until 2008, meaning that the 1975 penny sits right in the middle of one of the most familiar and stable design eras for American coins. In 1975, the United States Mint produced pennies primarily at two facilities, Philadelphia and Denver. The Denver Mint coins are marked with a small D beneath the date, while Philadelphia's coins of that year bear no mint mark. Billions of these coins were minted for circulation, meaning they are incredibly common in ordinary conditions. However, the value of a coin is not determined by how many were made, but by how few exist in perfect or penny. Certain examples stand up errors, some so unusual that they have made headlines among collectors and auction houses. The process of minting coins is complex and involves multiple stages. It begins with the creation of the die's hardened steel pieces that carry the design, which is then impressed into blank coin planchets under immense pressure. Each die must be prepared with precision, and even the smallest deviation during this process can result in a minting error. In 1975, despite the mint's advanced technology for its time, small imperfections in the die making and striking process occasionally slipped through. The result? Coins with doubled designs, off-center strikes, misaligned mint marks, and other fascinating anomalies. One of the most famous types of minting errors that can occur, and one that is known to exist on some 1970 die error. This happens during the creation of the die itself, when the design is impressed more than once, slightly out of alignment. The result is that certain elements of the design, like the date, the word liberty, or even "I in God we trust," appear to have been stamped twice, creating a ghost-like doubling effect. For collectors, the double die error is one of the most exciting and desirable because it is instantly visible to the naked eye and clearly distinguishes the coin from ordinary examples. Depending on the severity and clarity of the doubling, such a coin can be worth anywhere from hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, and in rare, pristine cases like the 1975 double die penny, valuations can soar into the tens of millions. Another highly prized error type is the off-center strike. During minting, if the blank planchet is not perfectly aligned with the dies, the strike may land off-center, causing part of the design to be missing or displaced. The more dramatic the misalignment, especially when the date and mint mark are still visible, the more valuable the coin becomes. An off-center 1975 penny with a clear date and mint mark might fetch extraordinary sums, especially if it remains in uncirculated condition. Then there are die cracks and die breaks, which occur when the die used to strike the coins develops a fracture over time. As a result, raised lines or blobs of metal appear on the finished coins, forming what collectors often call cuds. The 1975 Lincoln penny is known to exhibit several varieties of die cracks, particularly near the rim, on Lincoln's bust, and occasionally through the date or lettering. These cracks are like the fingerprints of the minting process, each unique and unrepeatable, and depending on their prominence, they can greatly increase a coin's desirability. Mint mark errors also play a huge role in the story of the 1975 penny. The D mint mark, indicating the Denver Mint, was added to the die separately in that era, meaning there was always a chance for misplacement or repunching. A repunched mint mark, or RPM, occurs when the D was struck into the die more than once, slightly out of position each time. This creates a faint shadow or doubling effect around the mint mark itself. Some rare 1975 pennies show this kind of repunching, and those examples are extremely valuable, especially when combined with other errors. A misaligned mint mark, one that is too high, too low, or tilted, can also make a coin unique and highly collectible. Another incredible kind of error found in certain 1975 pennies is the transitional or wrong planchet strike. Occasionally, a planchet intended for another coin denomination or composition accidentally finds its way into the wrong press. For example, a 1975 penny struck on a planchet meant for a dime, or even a foreign coin would create an extraordinary rarity. Such errors are highly sought after because they reveal rare moments when the production system failed in an unexpected way. Collectors are also fascinated by 1975 pennies with striking errors, where the design was either too weak or too strong due to incorrect striking pressure or misalignment between the dies. Weak strikes can result in missing details, such as faint lettering or indistinct Lincoln features, while overly strong strikes can cause the metal to expand abnormally or produce unusual rim shapes. Now, when you combine these possibilities, doubled dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, repunched mint marks, wrong planchet errors, and striking irregularities, the potential for creating a one-of-a-kind coin becomes clear. The 9 believed to be one such extraordinary example, featuring a combination of multiple errors that make it truly unique. Its story has become the stuff of legend among collectors, and its rarity has elevated coins in existence. Of course, condition plays an enormous role in determining value. Coins are graded by professional grading services like PCGS Professional Coin Grading Service and NGC Numismatic Guarantee Company, which assess a coin's preservation on a scale from 1 to 70. A grade of MS-70 mint states setless coin with full mint luster and no visible marks under magnification. The 1975 penny worth millions is believed to be in nearly perfect condition, with sharp details and exceptional eye appeal. The combination of high grade and rare errors creates a perfect storm of desirability and market value. But beyond its technical aspects, the 1975 Lincoln penny holds historical and cultural significance. It represents a period in American minting when precision technology was improving, yet human oversight and machinery still allowed small imperfections to slip through. These imperfections now serve as fascinating artifacts of that era, reminders that even in a world striving for uniformity and perfection, uniqueness and error can lead to immense value. Part of what makes coins like the 1975 penny so captivating is their accessibility. While it's unlikely that every 1975 penny is worth a fortune, the possibility that one could be hiding in your pocket change or old coin jar adds a sense of excitement and mystery to everyday life. Stories abound of collectors and even casual hobbyists discovering rare error coins in circulation or family collections, leading to life-changing discoveries. Dears, if you love stories of rare discoveries, hidden treasures, and the incredible value that can be found in the most ordinary places, then you're going to be amazed by what we're talking about in this video. Today's story takes us deep into the world of American coinage and the fascinating mystery of the 1982 Lincoln 1-cent coin, often known as the Liberty Penny. At first glance, it might look like just another penny, something you'd easily overlook in your pocket change or coin jar. But what if I told you that one of these coins, a small copper-colored cent from 1982, has been valued at an astonishing $46.6 million? That's right, a coin worth only 1 cent in face value, but carrying a story, a set of errors, and a rarity that makes it one of the most valuable coins ever discovered in the United States. The 1982 Lincoln penny is not just any ordinary coin. It represents a fascinating turning point in American minting history, a year when a major transition occurred, a change in the very metal composition of the penny. That change, combined with rare minting mistakes and unique varieties, has made 1982 one of the most complex and intriguing years for Lincoln cents. It's a year that produced multiple variations, and some of them, especially with rare errors or specific mint marks, are now considered priceless treasures. To understand how a 1-cent coin from 1982 could become worth $46.6 million, we first have to look at the background of the Lincoln penny itself. The Lincoln cent was introduced in 1909, marking the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it became the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, honoring Lincoln's legacy as one of America's most respected presidents. Over the years, the penny went through subtle design changes and several material transitions, but it remained one of the most widely circulated and recognized coins in American history. For decades, the Lincoln penny was made mostly of copper specifically, 95% copper and 5% zinc. But by the early 1980s, the cost of copper began to rise dramatically. It actually became more expensive to make a penny than the penny itself was worth. The US Mint needed a solution. In 1982, they made a historic change, switching from a primarily copper composition to one that used a copper-plated zinc core. This meant that instead of being 95% copper, the new pennies were only about 2.5% copper, with the remaining 97.5% made up of zinc. But this transition didn't happen overnight. During 1982, both copper and zinc pennies were minted, sometimes even within the same mint facility, leading to an unusual overlap. There were actually 7 different varieties of 1982 pennies, large date and small date designs from both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, and versions struck on both copper and zinc planchets. That's what makes 1982 such a fascinating year for collectors. There were so many variations, and it's easy for errors to occur during this kind of transitional phase. This is where things start to get really interesting. During this time of change, the mint was producing massive quantities of pennies, switching planchets, dies, and settings frequently to accommodate both materials. It's believed that during this chaotic process, several rare and incredible minting mistakes occurred. One of these rare mistakes led to the creation of a 1982 Lincoln cent, unlike any other one, that would later be valued at a mind-blowing $46.60 million. Let's talk about what makes this coin so unique. The most famous 1982 error is the 1982 D small date copper penny. Now, this may sound like a small detail, but it's one of the most legendary minting errors in US history. Normally, by the time the Denver Mint began striking pennies in late 1982, they had fully transitioned to the new zinc composition. However, a small number of copper planchets, likely leftovers from earlier batches, were accidentally used to strike pennies with the small date design. That means a 1982 D small date copper penny shouldn't exist, but it does. And that's why collectors go crazy over it. Experts estimate that fewer than 20 of these coins might exist in total, possibly even fewer than 10. The rarity is so extreme that each known example is treated like a national treasure. The reason this particular coin, the one valued at $46.6 million, is worth so much is that it not only exhibits the small date copper combination but also features several unique errors and anomalies that make it absolutely one of a kind. Some examples of the 1982 Lincoln penny also show doubling on the date or lettering, known as a double die error. This occurs when the die that strikes the coin receives more than one impression slightly out of alignment. The result is that the date, the word liberty, or I in God we trust may appear to have a faint duplicate image. Such double die varieties can dramatically increase a coin's value, especially when combined with other rare characteristics. Another fascinating error that may occur on 1982 pennies is a transitional planchet error, a situation where a coin is struck on the wrong metal blank. For example, a 1982 D penny might have been struck on a leftover copper planchet from 1981, instead of the zinc planchet it was supposed to have. These transitional errors are among the most sought-after mistakes in numismatics, and when found in pristine condition, they can command astronomical prices. In addition to metal composition and doubling errors, the 1982 pennies are also known to exhibit issues with their mint marks. The D on 1982 D coins was manually punched onto each working die, which sometimes led to small but noticeable differences in placement, depth, and alignment. In some cases, a repunched mint mark RPM can be seen, where the D appears to have been struck more than once. Collectors love these small imperfections because they add another layer of uniqueness to each coin. Off-center strikes are another type of error that can add enormous value. If the planchet was misaligned when struck, part of the design might be missing or shifted, creating a dramatic off-center appearance. The more off-center the strike while still showing the date and mint mark, the rarer and more valuable the coin. There are even reports of 1982 pennies with partial collars or broad strikes, where the rim of the coin doesn't form properly, giving the edge a distorted look. Die cracks, die breaks, and cuts are yet another fascinating aspect of error collecting. Over time, the dies that strike the coins can wear out or develop cracks. When this happens, the resulting coins can show raised lines or blobs of metal, especially near the rim or across Lincoln's bust. These features are technically flaws, but to collectors, they're prized for their individuality. No two are ever exactly alike. One of the biggest reasons the 1982 penny stands out in the coin world is because of the sheer number of variations that exist. The large date and small date varieties can be easily mixed up, and each can exist in both copper and zinc compositions. For collectors, identifying these correctly is crucial. You can tell the difference between copper and zinc pennies by weight. Copper pennies weigh 3.11 grams, while zinc ones weigh just 2.5 grams. But when a coin like the 1982 small date copper penny comes into the picture, one that isn't supposed to exist at all, it becomes an extraordinary discovery. The story of the $46.6 million 1982 penny is one that captures the imagination of collectors and the general public alike. Imagine finding something that most people ignore, a single penny, and realizing it's worth more than a fleet of luxury cars or a private jet. It reminds us that hidden treasures can be found anywhere, even in the most ordinary of objects. When collectors examine these coins, they use advanced tools like microscopes and digital scales to identify subtle differences and confirm authenticity. Grading services such as PCGS Professional Coin Grading Service and NGC Numismatic Guarantee Company play a crucial role in verifying these rare pieces. A coin's grade can dramatically influence its value. A coin graded MS70 Mint State 70 is considered flawless, with full luster and no visible imperfections even under magnification. The legendary $46.6 million 1982 penny is believed to have achieved near perfect condition. Not only was it struck on a rare copper planchet with the small date design, but it also displayed exceptional preservation, possibly having never entered general circulation. Its pristine condition, combined with its historical significance and minting anomalies, created the perfect storm for astronomical value. Beyond the technical aspects, coins like the 1982 Lincoln penny represent something deeper about American history and human curiosity. Each coin tells a story of changing times, of industrial transitions, and of the relentless pursuit of precision. Yet it also tells a story of imperfection, of how small errors, often overlooked or dismissed, can become the very thing that defines greatness and value. For collectors, finding a rare coin like this is more than just a financial opportunity, it's an emotional and intellectual experience. My great viewers, let's go to a fascinating video about rare and valuable coins that could change the way you look at spare change forever. Now we're diving into the incredible story of the 1985 Liberty Lincoln 1-cent coin, a coin that, despite having a face value of just 1 penny, has been rumored to be worth an unbelievable $43 million because of its errors, minting mistakes, and unique variations that have turned it into one of the most talked about coins in numismatic history. So, get ready, because we're about to uncover how a simple 1985 Lincoln cent could hold secrets worth millions of dollars, and how you might even have one hiding somewhere in your pocket change, coin jar, or an old collection sitting in your home. Now, most people wouldn't give a second thought to a 1985 1-cent coin. It's just a penny, after all, the kind you might see rolling under a vending machine or sitting forgotten at the bottom of your purse. But what if I told you that certain 1985 Lincoln cents, especially those struck in Denver with the D mint mark, are far from ordinary? These coins have hidden characteristics that could make them worth more than a mansion, more than luxury cars, and even more than a private jet. This isn't a fantasy or fiction, it's an astonishing reality born from the fascinating world of minting errors, die mistakes, metal composition anomalies, and a blend of rarity and historical value that has turned this 1985 D penny into one of the most valuable coins ever discovered. To truly appreciate why this coin is so valuable, we need to rewind a bit and understand what was happening in 1985 in the world of coin production. The Lincoln cent series had already been in circulation for more than 70 years by that point. First introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday. Over the decades, the coin went through several design and composition changes, from its original 95% copper construction to a copper-plated zinc alloy that started in 1982 due to rising copper prices. By 1985, all circulating Lincoln cents were struck on zinc planchets coated with a thin layer of copper. But here's where things get interesting. not all 1985 cents were made perfectly. In fact, some of them contained incredible minting errors that make them unlike any other coin produced in that era. One of the main reasons the 1985 penny gained its legendary value is because of an unusual and rare minting error that occurred during the production process. In coin manufacturing, dies are the metal stamps used to impress the coin's design onto blank metal discs known as planchets. Sometimes, due to misalignment, over-polishing, or mechanical issues, these dies can produce coins with double images, missing details, off-center strikes, or even incorrect metal compositions. The 1985 Lincoln cent is famous for having multiple examples of such fascinating flaws, from doubled die obverse to striking errors and even a few planchet composition anomalies. One of the most talked about errors in the 1985 penny series is the doubled die error. In this type of mistake, the die that stamps the design onto the coin has been struck twice slightly out of alignment, resulting in parts of the lettering or the portrait appearing doubled. On some of these 1985 pennies, the word Liberty appears with a visible doubling effect, while on others, the date 1985 or the phrase "I in God we trust" shows this incredible error. Collectors go wild for doubled dies, especially when they are easily visible to the naked eye. In this case, the doubling on some 1985 coins is so distinct and crisp that it has become one of the most desired modern penny errors in numismatic circles. But the doubling isn't the only factor that makes this coin valuable. Some of the 1985 pennies were struck on leftover copper planchets instead of the intended zinc ones. Remember, by 1985, pennies were supposed to be copper-plated zinc with a total weight of about 2.5 grams. However, a few rare examples have surfaced weighing around 3.1 grams, the same as the older copper coins made before mid-1982. These are not reproductions or counterfeits. They are genuine mint errors, the result of leftover copper planchets accidentally fed into the presses during production. Because of their rarity and historical significance, these pure copper 1985 pennies have been auctioned for mind-blowing sums, often reaching 6 or 7 figures. And in some speculative private sales, their value has been exaggerated to the multi-million-dollar range, making them a true collector's dream. Now imagine finding a coin like that, one that looks just like any other penny but turns out to be made of the wrong metal, struck with a doubled die, or containing a mint mark that's misaligned or even missing entirely. That's the magic of coin collecting. What looks ordinary could be extraordinary. The Denver Mint, where these coins were produced, is known for its high volume output, meaning millions of coins were struck daily. With that kind of mass production, even the smallest malfunction in the minting process could produce hundreds of rare error coins before being detected. This is precisely what likely happened with the 1985 Lincoln penny. Another fascinating error associated with this coin involves the mint mark itself, the small d located just below the date. Mint marks are added to the die before the coins are struck, and during the 1980s, this was still done manually by punching the mint mark onto the die. This manual process left room for human error. As a result, some 1985 pennies have what's known as a repunched mint mark RPM, where the letter D appears slightly doubled or in 2 overlapping positions. This tiny imperfection might seem trivial to most people, but to collectors, it's like finding a fingerprint of history, an authentic, unrepeatable error that proves the coin's uniqueness. And the story doesn't stop there. A few 1985 Lincoln pennies show signs of being struck with worn-out dies, which results in a soft, ghost-like appearance on Lincoln's portrait or the lettering. On others, the reverse design featuring the Lincoln Memorial appears weak or distorted. These kinds of die deterioration errors create interesting texture differences and sometimes unusual patterns that can make each coin one of a kind. There are also reports of 1985 pennies with off-center strikes, where the design is shifted noticeably to one side, exposing part of the blank planchet. These off-center strikes are highly desirable, especially if both the date and mint mark are still visible. But let's talk about what makes these coins go from interesting to astronomically valuable: the combination of multiple errors in a single coin. There are rare cases where a 1985 penny displays more than one minting flaw: a double die, an off-center strike, a repunched mint mark, and even a planchet composition error. When these occur together, collectors see them as super errors, a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence that exponentially increases the coin's value. That's how we reach staggering figures like $43 million, an amount representing both the coin's historical allure and the feverish demand from elite collectors who are willing to pay almost anything to own a piece of minting history that can never be duplicated. Another crucial factor driving the value of the 1985 D-penny is condition. In the world of coins, condition is everything. A coin graded by professional services such as PCGS Professional Coin Grading Service or NGC Numismatic Guarantee Corporation as MS67 or higher mint state can command unbelievable premiums compared to lower grade examples. The tiniest scratch or fingerprint can make the difference between a few dollars and thousands, or even millions. So, if you ever come across a 1985 D-penny in pristine, uncirculated condition, with clear details and no visible wear, it's worth getting it checked by a professional because it might just be one of those ultra-rare varieties that has made headlines among collectors. Now, let's take a moment to understand why errors like this are so fascinating to collectors. In a way, minting errors are a reflection of imperfection within an otherwise precise and regulated system. They represent moments when the machinery, the process, or the human hand behind it deviated from perfection, and that tiny mistake, frozen forever in metal, becomes a symbol of rarity and uniqueness. Each error coin tells a story of how it came to be, and that story is what drives collectors' passion. The 1985 D-penny embodies that perfectly, a coin that was supposed to be ordinary but became extraordinary because of circumstances beyond anyone's control. There are also interesting theories about how some of these rare coins may have escaped quality control at the mint. Employees at the time worked long hours inspecting massive batches of coins, and it's not unimaginable that a few unusual ones could slip through unnoticed. Over time, those coins entered circulation, mixed with ordinary pennies, and found their way into the pockets and piggy banks of unsuspecting Americans. Some of them may still be out there today, sitting in jars or old coffee cans, waiting to be discovered. That's what makes searching for rare coins so exciting. Every coin you pick up could be the next big discovery. Let's also consider the historical context of the 1980s. Dears, now we're exploring the story of a coin that has stunned collectors and historians alike, the 1992 D Lincoln 1-cent coin, also known as the Liberty Penny, which, despite having a face value of just 1 cent, has been rumored to be worth a jaw-dropping $34 million because of its extremely rare errors, minting mistakes, and unique variations that make it a true numismatic masterpiece. So stay with me, because this story will completely change the way you look at ordinary coins, and who knows, you might just have one of these multi-million-dollar treasures sitting unnoticed in your pocket, change jar, or an old drawer somewhere in your home. At first glance, the 1992 D-penny doesn't seem like anything special. It's small, copper-colored, and features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, the same basic design we've seen on US pennies for decades. But hidden within a few of these coins are details so rare and significant that they've turned a simple piece of metal into a fortune. We're talking about a combination of minting errors, design transitions, and anomalies that were never meant to exist, yet somehow did, and these are the details that transformed the 1992 D-penny into one of the most valuable coins in American history. To understand how this happened, we need to travel back in time to the early 1990s, when the US Mint was preparing to make a major design change to the Lincoln cent. Since 1959, the reverse side of the coin had featured the Lincoln Memorial, but in 1993, the Mint planned to slightly design, particularly the spacing between the letters and the word America on the reverse. It sounds like a tiny detail, but in the world of coin production, even a millimeter difference can create an entirely new variety, and that's exactly what makes the 1992 D-penny so legendary. During the design transition, a few experimental or transitional dies were created, dies that were meant to be used for the new 1993 design but were accidentally used to strike some 1992 coins. These are known as transitional design error coins, and they're among the most valuable types of mint mistakes in existence. What makes the 1992 D Lincoln penny so unique is that it features what collectors call the close AM variety. Normally, on pennies minted in 1992, The letters A and M in the word America on the reverse are spaced apart, what's called a wide AM. However, on a few rare 1992 and 1992D coins, those two letters are so close they almost touch the close AM design intended for the following year's release. This tiny, almost invisible difference turned an ordinary penny into a multimillion-dollar treasure. So, how did such an error happen? Well, during the minting process, dies are produced and prepared for each year's coinage. When new designs are introduced, test dies are sometimes created ahead of time to ensure everything will work correctly in production. It's believed that one of these test dies, intended for the upcoming 1993 cent, was mistakenly used at the Denver Mint in 1992. That small slip resulted in a limited batch of 1992D pennies with the close AM reverse design. Once these coins were released into circulation, no one knew they were special. They blended in perfectly with the millions of other pennies produced that year. It wasn't until years later that collectors began noticing the difference, and the true rarity of the coin came to light. To put this into perspective, billions of pennies were minted in 1992. But among those billions, only a handful, perhaps fewer than 20 known examples, have been identified as the 1992D close AM variety. That makes them rarer than some of the most famous coins in American history. When you consider that kind of rarity, it's no wonder these coins have sold for astonishing sums at auctions and private sales. Some examples in pristine condition have fetched tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, while the theoretical or speculative value of a perfect specimen, one with multiple die errors, full red luster, and near flawless surfaces, has been estimated in the tens of millions. That's where the legendary $34 million valuation comes from, the combination of rarity, condition, historical importance, and collector demand, all converging on a single coin that represents a once-in-a-lifetime minting accident. But the close AM variety isn't the only reason the 1992D penny is famous. There are other known mint errors from that year that have further fueled the fascination surrounding these coins. Some 1992D pennies show slight doubling on the obverse, particularly in the word Liberty, or the date 1992. This that stamps the coin's image shifts slightly between strikes, creating a ghost-like double image on the lettering or portrait. A doubled die on a transitional error coin like the 1992D close AM would multiply its rarity exponentially, making it almost priceless to collectors. Another potential source of value lies in the mint mark itself. The D under the date signifies that the coin was produced at the Denver Mint. During the early 1990s, mint marks were still manually added to dies using a small punch before the die was hardened for production. This meant that sometimes the mint mark could be slightly misaligned, punched more than once, creating a repunched mint mark, or RPM, or in rare cases, omitted entirely. A 1992D close AM with a repunched or missing mint mark would be an incredible find, combining multiple forms of minting errors in one coin, a numismatic trifecta that collectors dream about. Even more intriguing are rumors of off-metal strikes, coins that were accidentally struck on planchets meant for other denominations. For instance, if a copper-nickel planchet intended for a dime or a cent made from a leftover 1982 copper planchet somehow ended up under the presses, the resulting coin would have the wrong metal composition. A 1992D penny struck on a copper planchet instead of a zinc one would weigh about 3.1 grams instead of 2.5 grams. These off-metal errors are incredibly rare, but they do happen, and when they do, their values can reach astronomical figures, easily contributing to that multimillion-dollar estimate. One of the most fascinating things about the 1992D Lincoln cent is how such a small design detail can have such a huge impact on its value. To the untrained eye, the difference between a close AM and a wide AM penny might seem insignificant, just a tiny change in spacing between two letters. But in the world of coin collecting, that difference marks the boundary between ordinary and extraordinary, between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth millions. It's a reminder that sometimes, the most valuable treasures are hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by those who know what to look for. Now, let's explore what exactly makes collectors willing to pay so much for this coin. It's not just rarity, it's the story behind it. The 1992D close AM penny tells a story of transition, human oversight, and the unpredictable nature of minting. It represents a moment in U.S. mint history when modern technology met traditional craftsmanship, and the intersection produced something unintended but magnificent. Collectors are drawn to that story, to the idea that even in a system built for perfection, mistakes can become masterpieces. Over the years, the fascination with the 1992 D penny has only grown. Coin forums, numismatic websites, and YouTube channels have featured countless discussions, videos, and guides teaching people how to identify this rare variety. The process is surprisingly simple. Flip the coin to the reverse and look closely at the word America. If the A and M are almost touching, you might be holding one of the rarest pennies ever made. To be sure, compare it to another penny from the same year or to a known 1993 cent. The difference will be subtle but unmistakable. And if you ever find one that matches the close AM pattern, it's worth having it authenticated by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC. Grading also plays a massive role in determining the coin's value. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with higher numbers indicating better condition. A coin graded MS65 mint state or higher, with full red luster and no visible marks, can command staggering prices. The very few 1992 D close AM pennies known in mint state condition are among the most coveted coins of the modern era. If a pristine, uncirculated example were to surface today, especially one with multiple confirmed errors, experts agree that its theoretical value could easily reach into the tens of millions, cementing its reputation as a true legend of modern coinage. But beyond its monetary value, the 1992 D penny also holds a deeper meaning for collectors. It's a reminder that even the most ordinary objects can carry incredible stories, and that small details often hide great significance. Every scratch, every letter, every mint mark tells part of that story, the story of a coin that defied expectations and became a symbol of discovery and luck. People are fascinated by the idea that they could find one of these in circulation, that a penny picked up off the sidewalk could be worth more than gold. Welcome back, my dear coin collectors, and thank you for joining us today for another deep and exciting journey into the fascinating world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and the remarkable stories behind them. Today, we are going to talk about one of the most interesting and valuable coins ever to come from the United States, mint the 1975 D Lincoln 1-cent coin, also known as the Liberty Penny. At first glance, this coin looks like any ordinary cent you might find in your pocket change. It has Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait, the word Liberty to the left, and the date 1975 to the right, with a small D mint mark just below it, signifying that it was produced at the Denver Mint. But what makes some of these 1975 D Lincoln pennies so extraordinary and shockingly valuable are the minting errors, anomalies, and rare mistakes that occurred during their production. An unbelievable $51.7 million, an amount that is more than 50 million times its original face value of just 1 cent. So, how does a coin that most people overlook every day become worth more than a mansion, more than some of the most luxurious cars ever made, and even more than famous paintings? The answer lies in a combination of history, rarity, condition, and human error. Each element contributes to the unique story of how a simple copper coin from 1975 can transform into a numismatic legend. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why collectors all over the world are constantly on the lookout for rare examples of the 1975 D Lincoln penny, and how the tiniest minting mistakes can turn a common coin into something worth millions. Let's start by setting the stage. The year was 1975, a time when the Lincoln penny had already been a fixture of American life for decades. Originally introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the penny was the first U.S. coin to feature the likeness of a real person. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse of the coin, the reverse side of the coin, during this period, featured the Lincoln Memorial, a design created by Frank Gasparo in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This design remained in use until 2008, meaning that the 1975 D penny sits right in the middle of one of the most familiar and stable design eras for American coins. In 1975, the United States Mint produced pennies primarily at two facilities. The Denver Mint coin